It's a bunch of geeks.
Yeah.
Lots of virgins. I'm kidding. That might not be. I don't know. But
Welcome to Breaking Stereotypes with Todd and Tootsie. Today we are joined by Jason Aquilano, death metal enthusiast and lead guitarist for the band Gutted Alive. Today Jason will attempt to break the stereotype of death metal music and its fans. But before we start, I just want to remind our viewers to like this video and subscribe to our channel to see more in-depth interviews that break stereotypes. All right, welcome Jason. Thanks for joining us today.
thanks for having me. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Jason. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
So why don't we start with some of the stereotypes? I'm kind of curious what you think a lot of the stereotypes are of someone like yourself who enjoys death metal music.
Well, I fit some of them, of course, or else there wouldn't be stereotypes, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Long hair, some kind of facial hair. In my case, a goatee. Wearing lots of black in band T-shirts. Being pretty, I don't know, what's the word, like isolated?
Okay.
Intimidating, maybe. I don't know, but I'm totally not intimidating. So I don't fit that stereotype, thank God.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah, so why don't we start with that? You're talking about the look, which is a huge component,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like I we've talked a lot about that. Like, is that something that, did you always look this way and then got into death metal, or did this look develop along with it or after it?
Is this an evolution, or is this something that, you always kind of were like this?
Growing up in the 90s, I was really, like I spoke to you guys about before, Nine Inch Nails, Nirvana, the grunge scene, the industrial scene, all that. I was really into growing up. And a lot of kids my age at that point were growing their hair out and everything. So I kind of just jumped on that bandwagon. But it just kind of stuck. I liked it. So then when I started getting into metal, hey, I already had long hair anyway. So, I mean, it worked out. But yeah, I would say that for some people, it's kind of like a badge of honor almost. And it's kind of funny in the metal scene just because it's almost like if you don't have long hair, you are bald and you have hair in your face instead. So,
Okay, you grow it long there.
Yeah, exactly.
Grow it where you can.
Yeah. Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. So.
well, there's a certain amount, even when you're starting out, of discipline, I would think, to get it to the point where it's that length.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I had like
Do you know what I mean?
the bowl cut going on for a little bit there, and then you just kind of power through it for a couple months until your hair is long enough, and then it's like getting in your eyes and all that other stuff. I mean, I honestly can't tell you the last time I've had short hair, so I mean, yeah, I don't know what it's like anymore. The last time I got my hair cut short, it was just like this. It was like to my jaw, so I was like, oh man, this is short. Felt weird taking a shower.
Right.
I'm used to like having a lot of hair, so
Sure.
yeah, it was an adjustment, and then I grew it back out because I didn't like it.
So do you think that it sounds like whether you have long hair or you're bald, everybody has facial hair pretty much, right? Is there any clean cut?
No, there's definitely some. There's definitely some clean cut dudes. Too.
Okay.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I would say it's 90% long hair or bald, and then like that other 10% is like normal looking people for the most part.
Okay.
Quote unquote normal.
Right.
So.
Right.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
And so is there, like, what is the main purpose of the look, do you think? Is it to purposely be a little bit of an outcast, or kind of say fuck you to the mainstream, or is it literally just because it looks better when you're like playing and
I want to say it's kind of an amalgamation of all of those things. I mean, yeah, I think it looks awesome when you got a bunch of dudes with mops on their heads headbanging and stuff on stage. And,
yeah.
I'm sure there's definitely some people out there who makes it makes them feel badass probably. And yeah, I mean, the look, I don't know. To me, it's what makes me feel comfortable. I think for some guys, yeah, they just really like the look. I mean, it's just it's like that badass kind of thing.
Right. Is it kind of empowering?
Yeah, for sure. I don't know if they want to necessarily come off as like, get the fuck away from me type of thing, but maybe some of them do. I mean, I'm sure there's a few. I mean, I know personally, I don't mind it too much when people are leaving me alone when I'm walking down the street. So, I mean,
Okay, right. So it works to your advantage sometimes. It keeps people away.
Sure, yeah.
Well, it can
If
be
you
kind
wanted
of
to.
yeah, it can be kind of an intimidating presence
Sure.
if you want it to be that way. If you're in Wegmans or something, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to be the most approachable guy based upon that. That's where I think that one of the stereotypes is broken, is that you're super nice, super friendly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And so people may not come up to you in Wegmans, but if they knew you, they'd be happy to see you.
I would hope so. Yeah, sure. If they knew me, sure. Yeah.
And that's one of those things where would you say that's the majority of, death metal, enthusiasts, fans? Like, so there's this general assumption of like, whoa, stay away. They look kind of intimidating. But the majority are actually just like you, like super nice and chill.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they're I don't think anyone's really intentionally dressing to. Maybe they are. For me personally, I just like the way it looks, and I'm kind of lazy, and I don't care about fashion. So, I mean, for me, it's just like jeans and a band T-shirt. I'm good to go. I don't really take a lot of stock in my personal appearance, I guess. I don't know. So. But I'm sure for some people, I mean, there's some people that definitely dress a little bit more out of the realm than even I do. I mean, I'm pretty tame compared to some other guys in the scene. A lot of them like to wear these things called battle vests, which are like jean vests, basically with just band patches all over them. You know, and it's kind of like a statement, I guess. Like, hey, I love this stuff type of thing.
Yeah.
So
I had another guy that I knew too, who also had kind of really bold, I guess you would say, like either sneakers or boots that he kind of like wore all the time. They were like bright red too.
Oh, really?
But he, again, totally into death metal.
Okay.
So and in a band as well. So, I'm wondering, if just some of the kind of garb that goes along with the scene ends up kind of bleeding into kind of who you are as a person. Then you just kind of wear that, like you would everywhere else.
I don't see why it wouldn't. I mean, if you're gonna.
Like Kiss, for example, they would
Sure.
put their full makeup on,
Right.
but otherwise they would just look like a bunch of rock guys. They
You would
wouldn't
hope
be
so.
dumb,
Right.
right? And so, but with you guys, it's something that you live your life around it, right? It's not. Well, what I mean by that is, I guess by your appearance.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm definitely. When I'm wearing this, I know that like people are gonna look at me and be like, "Oh, he's a metalhead." I know it's gonna happen, and that's fine. As far as like, there's definitely some costuming to be involved with some bands. I mean, they definitely try to go for their gimmicks and stuff like that. But we're just T-shirts and jeans kind of guys, or like our kind of gimmick sometimes is like we'll all wear camo shirts or shorts or pants. I don't know why. It's like a death metal thing, I guess. But yeah, we'll all be wearing camouflage pants on stage.
Okay.
It's kind of like a running joke at this point. But I mean, I don't know why we do that. It's just, I don't know. I like camouflage. I guess everybody else in the band does too.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it has a badassery. It's like the Oklahoma Sooners was that, or the Miami Hurricanes back when they.
I don't.
Well, one of them they wore a bunch of like combat gear when they got off the plane.
Oh,
I think it was Oklahoma, and it was something that was kind of used as intimidation. Like we're going to warfare,
Sure,
and we
yeah.
have this. Kind of stick to this.
Or you can easily be confused as a hunter or something like that. So,
Well, the hunter usually wears a bright orange.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
So has there ever been any drawbacks to you, having this look in your life? Or is it something that, like, so for example, there might be certain jobs that people would not want to hire you, just walking in, they want you to get a haircut or something. But then again, you might just not want to be a part of that anyway. So I'm curious if like you've ever had to.
Yeah, luckily I've never had an interview for a job where like they were like, you got to cut your hair. Never. Maybe that's just the caliber of jobs I've been going for. I don't know, but
Well, I feel like nowadays the people, in general, everyone's more accepting of like.
I would like to
everybody's
think so,
differences,
especially. I mean, like the tattoo thing, for instance. A lot of more people have tattoos than ever
Right.
before, and like you'll see a lot more professionals. You know,
Sure.
tattoos, sleeves all up and down their arms, and you don't even give it a second thought. Where probably 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it would have been like, ugh.
Right.
Kind of the same thing with metal. Like, oh, this guy, watch out for him. He's intimidating. He's got tattoos, blah, blah, blah. And now it's just become kind of normal. So,
Right. It's like that's your thing. Like everybody has,
Sure.
something.
I will
that's their
say,
hobby.
I mean, there's not as, people don't really rock long hair as much anymore. I mean, unless you are a metalhead, I guess. But it's few and far between compared to like maybe the 80s and even 90s. But yeah, so it's kind of,
We also getting old too, Jason. So
I'm getting old too.
So it's one of those things where
Yeah.
maybe not hanging around the typical demographic. that would
No,
have
I'm
that look,
definitely.
right?
I mean, kids, people in their 20s and stuff. I mean, I'm old, so I mean, yeah, they're definitely doing things a little bit different, which is fine.
So I want to talk about the music a little bit now, which I think another stereotype that comes with death metal is because I guess the music and the imagery can be very violent and aggressive, and so there's a lot of assumptions and connotations wrapped up with that. Right, like everything from misogyny to
Sure.
white supremacy to devil worship to you name it, right?
Yeah.
So what do you say to that? Like when that's kind of, I guess, an assumption that's probably put on you just for your taste in music.
Well, unfortunately, there are bands that are about misogyny and Satanism and the other thing there. Me personally, I don't really pay attention to that sort of stuff. It's more music for me than anything. Sometimes lyrics, depending on what band it is. But for some people, yeah. I mean, these bands are obviously out there to cater to that, But I even think those kind of bands, especially like with sorry, I can't talk, and all that sort of stuff, you'll find that there's not really much of a audience for it, and if there is, those are people we don't really, not people like me really would ever associate with to begin with.
Right.
So I mean, as far as the Satanism is concerned, yeah, there's a lot of Satanism, but a lot of it is so just cheese, and like it's just like they're not really Satanists. They're not. They're not really practicing it, and I don't even know how you would go about practicing Satanism. I don't know anything about it, but I mean, there's a band, for instance, called Demubregir from Norway, and they're all about Satan, and I love them. I think they're awesome, but I mean, I don't practice it. I don't care. I mean,
Do you think like it's almost like a marketing thing? Like it's just wrapping
for
it
sure.
up in the look and
I mean, because there's people that definitely go for that aesthetic, So there's definitely a marketing gimmick behind a lot of the bigger bands that are more popular and stuff like that.
And so it's out there. It's maybe like there's this umbrella of death metal, and there's little pieces of it here and there that fit some of these things, but
Right.
it really doesn't encompass the whole, and
No.
it would actually be a very small percentage, you would say.
Yeah, I've maybe met a few people in my life that are in the metal scene that I was actually like kind of like, all right, this dude's weird. I don't want to talk to him. So, yeah, it's been very few and far between. So for the most part, I would liken us to me, it comes about the music first, just because of being a musician, it really speaks to me. And I like the vocals a lot, and I know that's something most people can't stand. It's just yelling and screaming, but there's even a talent there that most people can't pull off, even though they probably think they can, but they can't. I'm telling you, like, there's practice involved. There's
Sure.
ways to control it, and it's not so much volume as it is, consistency and stuff like that. So, yeah, there's a lot to it. But yeah, there's
I got a real
there's
quick
some
question,
people
though.
that follow it.
So when it comes to the lyrics, if I just gave you a random death metal song from an artist you never heard of, would you be able to understand the lyrics?
No, probably not.
Okay.
I'll admit that. There's
Okay.
definitely a lot of, I mean,
Well, just because I'm wondering if there's something that attunes your ears after a while to be able to kind of pick up words where someone like her and I, we're not attuned to that. So we'd literally probably have to have the lyrics
Yeah.
in front of us, and then we'd have to even combine that with what they're saying.
well, I'd be bullshitting of you if I said I don't need to use the lyrics myself. So
Okay.
I've sat down and read the lyrics right along with some of these vocalists, and some of them you'd read the lyrics along to. It's like I still don't understand what the hell he said. So I mean, that is what it is. I would say my ear has acclimated a little bit. I mean, I could probably pick it out a little bit better than your average Joe. I would even say that about the music. I remember getting into it. There's bands I love now that when I first heard them, I was like, God, this is just too much. Like, I don't understand what the hell's going on. But then, like, you kind of, like, start really picking apart all the different pieces, and then it all falls into place, and you're like, holy shit, these guys are good. Like, really talented. But it, you know, to the average person, it's just a blur of noise, and I can understand that. So, and then you even have bands that are literally just trying to make noise. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you have to distinguish between those.
yeah, well, you can usually tell. Yeah, everything kind of has its place in metal, and yeah, so
But it sounds like you understand that, you know, to the mainstream majority
For
of
sure.
people, they hear it and it's just like, this is noise. It is like loud and I don't understand what's going on, and like turn it off.
yep.
Okay. And
I
so
did.
for you though, what makes you hear that and want to lean into it and like turn it up and say, oh yeah, this is, you know, this connects with me.
Well, like I said, I think it took a lot of me kind of training my ears to get into it, because I grew up, you know, like I said, Nirvana, and then I started getting into Black Sabbath, which, you know, definitely a little bit more radio friendly than the stuff I listen to now. But
Right.
not that I don't like Black Sabbath anymore or anything, but it was just, there was one particular band I heard, they're called Cradle of Filth, and they blew me away just from everything they were doing right off the bat. I was like, wow, this is like something I've never heard before. And then I really started getting into more of everything I listen to now. And like I said, even along the way, there was bands I picked up, and it was just like, no. And then I'd come back and listen to them again and be like, holy shit, okay, wow. And so it's definitely, I would say there's a learning curve to it.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
Like you graduate to that level, right? You know,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, for
So-
sure. Yeah.
one of the questions that I had off the top of my head, and this is going to sound maybe a little off topic, but since you guys are obviously talented musicians, and like you said, the band you just referenced is super talented, if they had to kind of stick to a more just heavy metal formula or just a hard rock formula, do you think that they'd be able to, like you guys would be able to pull that off?
Well, Cradle of Filth, fun fact, did try a couple albums where it was a little bit more mainstream, or tried to be, and like I could not stand them, and most of the fans couldn't either.
Really?
So, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's like another band, they're called Opeth from Sweden, and they're really cool. They're a really good, very somber kind of, they call it progressive death metal. But the last few albums, the vocalist was like, dude, I don't want to do those vocals anymore. I'm going to just stick to clean singing, and we're going to go full prog. So they're like a prog rock band now. They went from death
Wow.
metal to prog rock, and they still retain a huge audience. I don't really care about the new stuff as much, but
Okay.
yeah. So could Gutted Alive do that? Absolutely not. No.
Okay.
Not with a name like Gutted Alive.
Right.
Well, I was
Kind of
just,
shoehorned ourselves into a quarter.
Well, I would just think if you guys just wanted to record like one song that was a little bit different.
We could record a pop song, but we
Your
make
radio
it like
hit.
death metal. You know?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Over the Rainbow or something like that.
Yeah,
But just
it'd
play
be
it.
interesting. Yeah, and it's
Okay.
funny. My boss actually wanted me to. He's like, "Why don't you get the guys to do a cover of Bob Marley?" And I'm like, "There's just no way.
Oh,
like
wow.
they'll
Yeah.
ever go for that." But I'll talk to him. So yeah,
Well, the thing that I would think would be fascinating about that would be to, if you put out something like that, like, you know, as an end track, or is that what they call it? That's
Like a
you know,
bonus track or
hidden
something?
track.
Right.
You know, that then, you know, for people who are just listening or something, they could say, wow, like these guys, because that's to the untrained ear, you could say these guys have this talent because they're able to cross over. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
And so, because again, it's so difficult if you don't have that ear for that, or if it just doesn't hit you that way.
Right. I don't think we'd ever want to do that, though.
Yeah, I understand. I get it.
But there's definitely bands that have changed direction here and there. So and whether or not that's successful, I don't know. It's up to the band, I guess. So.
Sure.
But do you like that you're kind of underground and like counterculture to the mainstream, and that you're not going to be on the the radio top 40 type
Yeah, I did not start this band thinking we were going to be huge rock stars or anything like that. I wouldn't want that kind of fame anyway. Yeah, I mean, I would like to be a little bit more successful than we are right now, but I mean, everything takes work. So,
But even in successful in death metal, it still kind of stays within that community. It's not like the big crossover type, right? So,
no, but I mean, you've got bands. A couple of years ago, Cattle Decapitation released. I know, right? They actually had a song that hit like the 100 Billboard. So,
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a band right now. They're called Lorna Shore, I think, and they're kind of what we consider deathcore. So they're a little bit more on blending hardcore with death metal.
Okay.
And they have a song that's just blowing up. It's gotten like 13 million hits on Spotify, and it's only been out for like a month and a half. So I'm sure they'll probably get on the Billboard sooner or later too. I think the Billboard's probably trying to add more stream, consensus in there. So yeah. So there is definitely some successful. One of the most successful bands, Cannibal Corpse. They started in Buffalo actually. They're probably the biggest death metal band out there, and they're going to be playing Anthology like next month. I mean, and that place will be packed, guaranteed. And it's not a stadium by any means, but I mean, for a large venue, it's pretty impressive for a death metal band. So, yeah.
So we were talking about this before. There's all these different genres within death metal.
Oh, yeah,
So what is Gutted Alive?
We consider ourselves brutal death metal.
Okay. And what is brutal death metal?
Like we deal with a lot of just murder and mayhem and gore, and I liken it to like a horror movie in a way. But we're not trying to be serious. We're not trying to be go out and kill your parents type of shit. Like we're just very tongue in cheek. And but what's interesting. Our next album that we're working on, we actually kind of want to do a concept album about Ed Gein because we find it interesting. We find a whole subject matter, serial killers and all that sort of stuff, a really interesting medium. So we're actually, this is probably as serious as we're ever going to get. But it's still going to be very tongue-in-cheek, a lot of humor in it. But, dealing with a serious subject matter at the same time.
Sure.
So... And Cannibal Corpse is very much the same way. They're very gore-oriented and all that sort of stuff. Like I said, it's just a horror movie vibe. Nobody's really trying to get you to do anything violent.
So that's such an interesting... I really like that you call it, like, associate it with a horror movie, because to me, that starts to make sense. Because in my world, like, I don't listen to death metal, and I'm sort of like, why? What? I don't, this is not my thing. But I don't watch horror movies either. And so it's like, oh, okay, but I know tons of people who love horror movies.
Sure, yeah.
And so when I think about it like that, it's like, oh, okay, it's a genre. And so, there is this stereotype out there that, like, I think a lot of people would think, no, you really are you want people to go out and kill people.
Yeah, I think there's
you
definitely
watch
some
the
people who
news
think
just
that,
for more content.
Or this guy's probably like killing prostitutes and stuff.
Right. But it's like in reality, what was it you said to us? We were talking about this, and you were saying if that were the case, there would be like all of these metalheads going to jail.
Yeah, they'd be coming in and out of jail all the time, just covered in blood. There's no way. I've never, like I told you guys, in the pre-screening, I've seen 2 fights maybe at the most in a metal show out of all the years I've been going to metal shows. And I don't even think it was over the music. Someone probably spilled a drink on somebody else or touched somebody's girlfriend's butt or something, something stupid. But
right.
I've never met anybody who I felt like, wow, this death metal is really making him fucking unstable. You should probably stop listening
making
to
him
it.
kill people, right?
Yeah.
It's like totally disassociated from
Yeah.
the music and the genre, the
Yeah.
reputation it has.
Yeah.
Just like going to horror movies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've met some horror people, who I've never thought of them oh, this kid's out of his mind. So
Right. Right. And the ones that do, like Ted Bundy, no one would have ever suspected, right?
No,
he
that's
was
the
totally clean cut.
Yeah, a lot of I mean, with my love of true crime, a lot of serial killers are actually very average looking Joe Schmoes. So it's kind of crazy.
They blend.
Yeah. I will admit, though, I think Jeff Dahmer was really into death metal and stuff
Oh,
like that.
okay.
Yeah, so
That's not
was
good.
he?
That's
Well,
maybe that's
unfortunately,
good for
you
your
know,
reputation. I don't know, but it doesn't seem
there's definitely some people who are going to gravitate towards that who are violent, unfortunately. But I wouldn't make it any worse than guy who really loves rap selling drugs on the corner. I mean, those two aren't mutually exclusive. So you know what
Right.
I mean. So yeah. So
Yeah, so you might, there might be an occasional crossover thing.
absolutely.
Where it checks both
It actually,
boxes,
yeah.
but,
And unfortunately,
but
that
the
could be-
majority, like anything.
Who
right?
party harder than the Eagles?
Right, that's true.
so-
Right.
But at the same time, that doesn't correlate. But so I think there's probably two parts to this. One is kind of like you said, your kind of love of horror and that genre of film, and then kind of translating that over into the music. But then there's just the musical style, the pace to it,
Right.
That probably hits something in your brain and it soothes you in some way.
it
right?
does. Yeah, it definitely. It's my choice to go to for the most part when I listen to music. But I mean, I like all sorts of different music for the most part. But I mean, yeah, usually if you're in my car, it's some kind of metal's playing in there for the most part.
Sure.
But
So how do you feel when you listen to it?
I don't know. I just like it. It's
But I mean,
it
does it, like,
depends. If
amp you
it's-
up,
if
or
it's-
does it-
Yeah, I mean, if it's a song I really like or it's something new I've never heard and I'm really liking it, yeah, I get pumped up. I'm like, well, damn, this is fucking awesome. I don't know. I like to zone out listening to it sometimes. It just, to me, it's relaxing. I know that sounds really strange, but yeah, for me, it's like, oh wow, it's just hit something to me that's like soothing. I don't know.
Well, that's interesting because it amps you up, but it can also soothe
Sure,
you.
yeah.
kind of
It
depending.
can, well,
Yeah.
and it really
like a
depends
beer.
on the band and everything.
Right.
Sure, but it really depends on the band and like what kind of mood I'm in. I mean, there's different kind of metal for all different kind of moods, I would say. And
Sure.
Do you ever listen to it like first thing in the morning?
no, oh, actually, you know what? I guess I kind of do because my alarm has a band on it that
No
wakes
way.
me up every
Oh
day.
my God. That sounds like my nightmare. That sounds like a total nightmare.
Yeah, for you probably. For me, it's just it wakes me
You're
up.
like, hey, I'm up. I'm ready to go.
Yeah. But no, honestly, I think being in a band's kind of burnt me out on a lot of it too. So like at work, usually, I mean, I'm allowed to listen to whatever the hell I want, and I'm usually listening to podcasts or
Oh, that's fine.
yeah, or on the way to work, I'll just put on like the break room in the morning or something like that. I'm not really like, oh, I need to listen to some death metal at 5:45 in the morning. So
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah. Well, but think about that dual effect of being soothing and also amping you up. Again, not mutually exclusive. And I think it's one of those things where sometimes, depending on what you want to do, you want to get amped up and it can be simultaneously soothing. And other times you want to just be soothed.
yeah, I
And
mean,
so,
going to the gym, for instance, you'll see a lot of
Oh, yeah.
people love listening to metal because it's really fast paced.
I have a lot of metal on my playlist.
I can tell
For sure.
I can tell, man. I see your hair's growing out. So.
but but it's one of those things where if I'm in that zone, like pushing everything I have on the weights, to listen to Ozzy or something like that is definitely going to be an assist.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Versus, something that's slower paced or,
Yeah.
or a podcast.
Yeah,
even.
pumping some classical music through there is probably not gonna.
Yeah.
So, but do you think you will ever age out of it?
I thought that a long time ago, and I'm about to be 40 this year, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon. So, no.
Yeah, I'm just curious because I listened to metal when I was a teenager, and
okay.
not death metal, but just
Sure.
regular heavy metal.
Like Metallica.
Yeah,
and
stuff like that. Was about as hard as I got.
Okay.
And I don't now. I'm like, oh, it's so loud.
Yeah.
So,
No, I've had friends who were, like kind of like you, really into it growing up, and now they're just not into it as much anymore, and that's
Right.
fine. I guess there is kind of a lifestyle that comes along with it. I'm not saying that negatively. I'm just saying, like, you kind of embrace a lot of it, and you kind of stick with people who like it. So a majority of my friends are all metalheads, of course, that type of thing. So, and I know guys that are in their 60s that are absolutely in love with it.
do you see them at shows?
Oh, yeah.
Like guys okay.
Yeah,
So there's a wide age range, or
absolutely. Yeah, I would say, from teenagers all the way up to old guys. Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
and do the old guys still have the look and everything? Or
Yeah,
they
Most
still-
of them, if they can keep it up,
Yeah.
if they're not losing their hair and
Yeah.
stuff, sure.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like my guitarist, my other guitarist, for instance, he's 45, I think, and he was starting to go bald, so he was kind of getting like what we call a skullet. You know what I mean? And he was like, all right, I can't do this anymore. And now he just shaves his head. So,
I feel like Skullet could be incorporated into a band name and be kind of cool.
That'd be interesting,
Yeah, Bloody Skullet.
I wouldn't be surprised if there already is a band called Skullet. So, yeah.
Cannibal Skullet.
There you go.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Just brainstorming here.
Well, also just I think with any kind of scene, it's one of those things where it involves bars, small venues, drinking. Do you know what I mean? I think staying out late.
Yeah.
So I would think potentially it might be something that people might age out just because of age, because they don't feel like going to the bar anymore, and just the volume. Although that could be soothing, I think that as we do age, we might have kind of less tolerance to it.
I can understand that. I mean, I don't go to every show that goes on around here, and I don't like every band that's around here, but I still respect it all. Even sometimes being at a show, like, I won't even sometimes, and it's rare, but like, you kind of miss a band here or there because you're sitting there talking at the bar with a friend or something, but it's always going on in the background. But I mean, there's definitely been nights where there was like a show going on. I was just like, I just don't have it in me to go out tonight. And
Sure.
I don't know if it's so much about the music as it is just like social anxiety and other things like that. But I mean, yeah. So
Is there cover bands around that?
yeah, I don't know any because
Okay.
I don't really respect them. I don't.
great.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of talented people doing cover bands. And
Sure.
The thing is, they're fucking making way more money off of somebody else's music than we are making original music, and
Right.
it kind of just pisses me off. Because I've had people come up to me and be like, "Dude, why don't you just start a cover band? You can actually make money doing it." And it's like, yeah, but it's not what I love. It's not.
Sure.
If my heart's not in it, why am I going to waste my time?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So, but there's cover bands out there, and they're very successful at what they do, and more power to them. It's just not my cup of tea. So,
Sure. So would you say the majority then? Because if you don't know any around here that are cover bands of death metal bands, then it's.
I don't know if there's any
Yeah, that's
death
what-
metal cover bands.
Oh yeah,
out
that's
there.
what,
There's
that's what I was referring to see if there was any ones that ripped off.
No, I
the
mean,
top
well,
ones.
a band might cover a song here and there from another band.
Okay.
Like Slayer or something, which is always cool. It's always a neat little surprise. We actually covered a Cannibal Corpse song a couple times playing live. And people like it. They're like, wow, that's fucking cool. Would I ever just straight up be a Cannibal Corpse cover band? Fuck no. But,
Okay.
yeah, so...
Okay.
Yeah, there's not. I don't know any. There was a band that was like a System of a Down cover band, and that's about as heavy as I know for a metal cover band around here was.
So it's just kind of part of the culture that if you're going to start a death metal band, it's going to be you creating things.
Yeah, a lot of it's very original, or all of it's original. I don't really know any bands around here who are straight up cover bands that are doing metal. So
Okay.
yeah.
So what's your creative process like with your band? Like, do you start with like an image of something, like we want to do this, gory thing, and then do the lyrics, or do you just start jamming, and like how do you create your music?
So usually how it works, when we first started, I would write pretty much something out on guitar, like just usually the music just comes first. Honestly, subject matter and lyrics come last. So we usually try to bang out all the musical parts, all the elements, try to fine tune all that, and then my vocalist will kind of try to come up with vocal patterns on top of that while we're working. And then honestly, the lyrics and the subject matter come last. That's why it's kind of different this time around for us right now, because like we're still doing it in that kind of process, but after all the music's done and written, we got to figure out how we want to arrange it and then start writing lyrics that would follow a concept, which we've never done before. So it's new territory, which is a cool challenge. We need it. I mean, even during writing sometimes, like someone just come with like a stupid title to a song. We're like, dude, we got to use that, And then, we'll kind of write the subject matter around that or something like that. But I don't think we've ever gone in like, this song has got to be about this, so.
But it all comes together.
But usually the music's done before any real like lyrics are thought about. So, yeah.
And we touched on this a little bit, but, Todd and I, just in researching this, we learned, just how talented and precise the musicians are, when you're an outsider and you've never heard it before and it just sounds like noise or whatever. But to be actually good at death metal means you have to be an exceptional musician because of the speed, that you're playing, and, the vocalist, which again, to the outsider might just sound like he's literally just groaning and grunting, but
Right.
But you were saying like how actually difficult that is to do.
It is. It's very difficult. I do some vocals in the band, just little parts here and there, and I hate doing it. Honestly,
It probably ruins your voice, right?
No, I know how to do it. I just don't
Okay.
like the way I sound. I don't think the guys in the band think I sound cool. I fucking hate it. So maybe that's just a self, what's the word I'm looking for? Self-conscious type of thing. But So.
But do you think most people don't realize how good the musicians and vocalists are in death metal?
For sure. Yeah. It's kind of hard because a lot of bands don't really have the money to do good recordings, first of all. So, and a lot of bands that people like kind of had this like garagey sound to them, and people are just attracted to that. They love the sound of like, it sounds like this was recorded in someone's basement. People fucking love that shit. I don't know why. And you'll see it in a lot of metal reviews on certain albums. Are like, oh, this is way too produced. It's like, it's a fucking studio album. What do you guys want? Like, you really want them to sound like they're recording in a basement, and apparently people do. So whatever.
Besides that, the other thing is that there's just so much physicality involved.
There's a lot.
Stage show. Like, actually, add that real quick. So when you guys are recording, are you headbanging while you're doing? Oh, you're not. Okay. So
no, I'm very.
That ruins our image.
I know, isn't it? Yeah. It's really sad to find out we're just kind of sitting there trying to do our best to nail it in one take, so we're not wasting our money trying to do it over and over again. So,
okay.
But yeah, it is a lot of. There's a lot of. For anybody that's a musician, there's patience. You gotta have patience. You gotta have discipline. You've gotta have, the confidence that you're gonna be able to get better. You're gonna. And a lot of people I know that have tried picking up instruments and stuff, they give up because it's just like, this is fucking bullshit, and they're seeing way too far ahead. They're like, I'm never gonna be like this guy. And it's like, well, you're not if you're gonna, constantly belittle yourself over it. So. Like even me, I've been as long as I've been playing guitar, like I'm nowhere near where I want to be, but that doesn't deter me from playing guitar. So, but it's definitely it's a lot of work, So, and like you guys said, when we're in the studio, we are 100% just concentrating on trying to get this shit done right the first time. And it's funny watching my vocalist because like. He's got his hair tied back. He's like standing there with a mic in his hand, and he just looks almost bored. Like he's just doing all that stuff. And it's like, holy shit. I can't believe he's producing all these noises, and he looks like he's just ready to eat a sandwich or something.
Right.
You know, so. Yeah.
How long would it take someone to develop that style of vocals? I mean, where it's done right. I mean, that's like...
For some people, it's kind of natural. Like, they can just get right into it. Some other people, I've definitely, I've seen them kind of like have to learn, because there is a technique to not blowing out your vocal cords.
Right. I would think that would happen if you didn't do it right.
Yeah, and like even with my vocalist, I mean, after, when we did a tour of like 9 days or so, towards the end, he was kind of getting hoarse. But I mean, there's other factors involved. You're in a smoky environment, be a bar or whatever, you're drinking alcohol. So, I mean, there's other factors involved, a lot of talking, all that sort of stuff. After a while, it will just put a strain on your voice no matter what. But there's definitely a technique to it that a lot of people fail to realize is there. So, yeah.
So you've been open about mental health issues that you've had in your life, and kind of... I'm curious how death metal has helped you with some of that, if you want to kind of share that with us.
Yeah. I don't know. I suffer from depression and anxiety, and have been for most of my life. So I've always kind of listened to angry music, and I don't know what it is about angry, sad music, but it kind of, I guess, it's nice to have something relatable to listen to, or something that's even
validated.
Angrier than you are, It's just kind of like, wow, it kind of puts things in perspective for you and stuff like that. And, so I think a lot of people in the metal scene have some kind of depression or mental, instability in their lives, unfortunately. And maybe that's part of what gave it birth in the first place. I'm not really sure, but I would like to think that it does help people that are into it, it definitely, like, just like some guy or girl who likes to listen to Celine Dion because it makes her feel better. I mean, I liken it to that. It's just your choice, what really speaks to you. So,
right. So it's kind of two things. On the one hand, it was like validating.
Sure.
You were hearing like your own feelings in this music. And then on the other side, it's also making you feel better, because you're kind of, whether it's like getting out some of that,
right,
and processing it,
sitting in the car screaming along with it sometimes.
You start to feel better. Right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, and it's something that's so different from your normal interactions, right? So like when you're at work, or you're just with your family or something, it's, you're gonna have to behave in a certain way,
right? Yeah.
And it's not, it's a mask in a lot of ways, right? We all have social masks, but in your car, and you can, if you're feeling depressed or anxious or something, you can just jack it up and you'll feel soothed, but it's okay then. And then when you go to a show and everybody kind of probably relates in some manner or another, then it ends up becoming a community.
Yeah, that's the coolest thing I think about metal is, so I have a lot of social anxiety. I don't like being in like large crowds of people strangers and shit like that. Like if I go to Wegmans, you'll see me zipping all over the place just trying to get my shit so I can get the hell out of there. But when I go to a metal show, it's like a big brotherhood. I don't know some of the people there, but it's like we're all there for the same thing. And odds are they're probably there to just get drunk or stoned, and so am I. So like, I mean, like, and listen to some death metal and heavy metal, and I've definitely made friends tenfold ever since I started this band and started going to shows and stuff like that. And some of my closest friends now are because of that. So it's definitely a huge community. Yeah.
And you once described it to me as just like, it's just like a bunch of kind of dorks having fun.
It's a bunch of geeks.
Yeah.
Lots of virgins. I'm kidding. I might not be. I don't know. But
but I mean, like, instead of thinking,
depends on their age.
There's a lot of geek culture involved for sure. Yeah.
Which was really the first time I heard that, I was really surprised.
Yeah.
Because, again, if anything, I've thought that because of the look and the sound and the lyrics and so on and so forth, that you would look at something that was traditionally more nerdy and, really just kind of dismiss that. But it's really like just a different side for a lot of people, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I got to ask, like, what would you guys think an average death metal person does in their free time? Like,
well, I know now, but it's one of those things
I mean,
where,
beforehand, like,
before,
what would you
I know.
assumed? Like, that they're out, like, hunting innocent animals?
I don't know about that, but I would definitely picture a death metal show as, like, potential for a lot of fights and a lot of, like, anger and just like a lot
violent.
of aggression. Yeah, that would totally be my impression, and not like kind of dorky guys that are you said like there are times when people bump into each other and be like, oh, are you okay? Like,
oh yeah,
sorry.
So there's still mosh pits, which I guess are considered violent. I mean, you are slamming into other people and everything.
Well,
like
that a lot of
and
genres of music have that.
Sure.
Right.
Death metal likes to do this thing called the wall of death. So they'll literally separate people, like, so there's a huge gap, and it'll be like, all right, as soon as this breakdown hits, and like these people just,
oh wow,
it's crazy. It's crazy to watch. You can fight
People
someone on
don't
YouTube.
get hurt?
Oh, they get hurt.
Oh, okay.
But it's the thing. I mean, these people are going in there knowing what they're expecting,
Sure.
but like to what you were saying, someone usually gets pushed down. There's someone there to pick them up. If someone gets hurt, there's people there to get them the hell out of there and help them. I mean, everybody gets along for the most part. There is still like your general elitists and cliques and whatnot, but I mean, for the most part,
in death metal, there's elitists.
oh
and
my
cliques?
God,
That's so funny.
you would not believe it.
Okay,
it is
It's
insane.
snobbery. Yeah,
There
it's
is.
just like anything. It's human nature, right? There's
I guess so. It's just oh, I like this band and nobody else does. There's that kind of mentality, and it's like, who fucking cares? Like, you're 30-something years old. Get over it, But yeah, for the most part, everyone's there just to have a good time, and I've like I said, I've very rarely ever seen any violence, like intentional violence. So yeah, for sure.
But it makes sense. I haven't really been able to or spend any time reading death metal lyrics, but just in a lot of when I was a teenager, I loved Iron Maiden.
Okay,
right,
yeah.
and so I had all their albums.
Awesome.
And,
have you seen them?
I have seen them. It was my first concert ever in 1985, and Power Slave tour,
dog.
and at the War Memorial.
It was like in their prime, man.
Yeah, but if I think about it now, listening to their lyrics, they are really nerdy kind of.
Very cheesy.
Do you know what I mean?
Very
And
cheesy.
so
Yeah,
it's
sure.
one of those things where it's not just talking about regular life. It's talking about war or but like Aces High, for example. I don't know if you're familiar with that song, but it's all about kind of a World War II fighter pilot.
Yep.
But it's something that, how they describe all that, it kind of has, I don't know if it's necessarily a nerdy feel, but, kind of like somebody who also like was a client in the past, for example, who would just like strategy games where they paint models and fight each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say, are there dragons in Iron Maiden?
No,
think there is.
it's more,
Okay.
but it's more, but it's more about like,
I know they deal with a lot of topics about war.
a lot of topics about war, but also like one of their big songs was "Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner," which is actually a poem written.
Right. Almost like a shanty.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, but it's it's about the ship in the 1800s, and
Right.
and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But they don't just talk about regular life. It's always
Right,
something
right,
like
Yeah.
that most people wouldn't experience in their life, or that is fantasy based.
Right,
No,
right, yeah, that's
there's
what.
bands that are totally fantasy based. There's bands that like worship Token, for instance. There's bands that really cover any gambit of topic you want to think about. There's bands that talk about heartbreak. There's bands that talk about depression. There's bands that talk about stupid shit like us that are just gore fiends, basically. Like we're just out to shock. Basically, sound as gross as possible just to kind of,
Right.
get a rise out of people. But yeah, I mean,
It's kind of like any other genre. Where it's got
Absolutely.
all its subgenres. And,
absolutely. And
Yeah.
metal's got just, I mean, it has been infused into almost any other kind of music there is out there.
I have to
And
say, it has great branding.
It does,
I mean, like
yeah.
all that, like the Wall of Death and all that
Yeah,
stuff. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
like really on brand. You know?
yeah. There's actually this water out now. It's Liquid Death. And it's in a can.
I've seen that.
Have you seen the
Oh,
commercials for it?
I've seen that.
I saw
It's just
commercials.
the
It
most
looks like
gory
beer.
commercials,
Yeah.
like these cartoon commercials. They're gory as hell, and it's literally just fucking water in a
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
It's hilarious.
Now they'll probably be at all the metal shows, right? You got to have Liquid Death.
I've definitely seen it there. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah.
But I feel like
yeah.
this really does demystify it for me, you know,
Okay.
because I'm not going to say I have the full on stereotype of death metal because it's just not something I've spent a lot of time thinking about. But I would definitely think it's like there's a lot of anger and rage and just, you know, fights and craziness, and it's like, you know, just hearing that it's kind of like dorky and I'm kind of picturing if you're in your genre, just trying to be like, yeah, let's get more blood, or like we need more guts, you know,
Yeah.
like just like a horror movie would. Like,
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
we need a little more
Yeah,
intestines.
it's like
you know?
Halloween 24/7 for us.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much. I
yeah.
mean, we just love spooky stuff, I guess. I don't know, the macabre, all
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. It's just
Yeah, and then you
interests me,
connect with. There is a good section of people out there that love that stuff, and so when
Absolutely.
they're looking for it, they're going to find you. So
Yeah, hopefully.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think it also has to that attracts, you know, kind of people are would consider themselves kind of disenfranchised? Do you know what I mean? Like
Sure.
kind of cut off from.
I would
know.
say so. I mean, I would almost pigeonhole myself into that, you know, like just yeah, it's something for people who feel kind of lost and, you know, like, you know, it kind of cycles back to, oh, I'm so angry, I'm so depressed, and then there's this music that kind of matches up with my feelings type of thing. So yeah, there's definitely people out there who I feel like it's what gets them through the day type of thing. So sure.
Where do you think
Okay.
you would be without death metal in your life?
That's a good question. Because I started getting into it when I was like 16, 17 years old. I don't know. Maybe I'd be better off.
Would you though? Would
I
you
don't
though? Or do
know.
you think
I
you
don't
You wouldn't
know.
have
would
many
been,
friends, probably, right?
It sounds like it's been a real positive for you, you know, because
It-
you talked about being
Yeah.
isolated and depressed
Right.
and having social anxiety, and it's been an outlet for you and a way to connect with people.
Yeah. But going back about 10, 12 years ago when I was in a different relationship, and I was a big metalhead then, and my girlfriend at the time was not, and it actually kind of put a rift in a lot of things, I
Okay.
think, because she didn't like the fact that I wore band t-shirts, and she didn't like the fact that I listened to this shit in my car, and it was like, I don't understand. I don't see what's the big fucking deal. Like, it's not impacting our relationship, but to her, the image was very off-putting, I guess. You know,
It was too harsh for her.
well,
and
yeah, she didn't,
want-
you know, was embarrassed to have me meet her friends
Oh.
type of thing, and she didn't like my friends, and
Uh-huh.
unfortunately, there is a lot of drugs and alcohol in the scene,
But
mostly
that's-
weed.
It's like every music,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
every music scene is like
so,
that.
like, and she was totally not into that stuff. So, like, I mean, there was a bit of a personality clash there too.
Yeah, it
but-
just sounds like you weren't compatible.
no,
Do you know
yeah,
what I mean?
but yeah,
But I understand what you're saying. If you weren't into death metal, maybe that could have gone in a different
right,
direction.
exactly. It's just kind of one example. It's
I feel like you should write a song about choosing death metal over a girl.
maybe. I don't know. I don't think my life would have been all that much different, honestly. I mean, if you're gonna, there's definitely some people who kind of like fully embrace it and just live, drink, and breathe heavy metal. And I think, you know, there's people like that for any kind of music genre.
Sure.
For me, it's just a part of my life. So it's it is a big part, and it's something that kind of sort of defines who I am. But I would never, you know, want someone to just judge me on my music. I think that's bullshit. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or your look or whatever. right?
well,
It's
yeah,
like that's
I
just-
mean,
it's still
I'm
just a
definitely
part of you.
fitting the part, but I mean, I'm not. Like I said, I'm pretty tame compared
Yeah.
to some other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I mean, I don't think life would have been much different. So,
What else are you into?
I love video games. I love board games. I love Star Wars. I love movies, and comedies.
So you're kind of a big nerd then.
I'm a very big nerd. Yes, I'll admit it, and I'm not ashamed. I love it all.
Yeah.
I got a huge video game collection. It's
Do you
just-
play like role-playing games?
See, I play them on a computer or something. I'm
Okay.
not into Dungeons and Dragons or
Okay.
any tabletop sort of stuff. There are people in the scene who are, and I can
That's so
probably,
funny. I
if
would've
you want to
never
meet
guessed
them,
that.
let me know. Like, they'll probably get you in on a game. They're
I
cool
don't know. I
people.
don't know how to play any of that.
No, it's all right. I just say like there's definitely a lot of dorks.
Yeah.
A
It's funny.
lot of dorks.
Yeah,
So
so I think
funny.
that Dungeons and Dragons is that same role playing. Okay, I'm going to create a character. I'm going to be in this fictional world. It's this fantasy. It's this escapism.
Yeah.
And I could see how the two would mesh together.
For sure.
It's just that when you think of them autonomously, you don't put the two together. But then when you start talking to people, it's like, yeah, it makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about when we were growing up. I think D&D was, the kids playing D&D were not metalheads back then.
No.
But now I could see just like Comic-Con and all those kind of worlds.
Sure.
It makes more sense with.
Oh my God! I know a guy who makes a living just selling Pokemon cards, and he's a metalhead.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, so there's a lot of nerd culture in heavy metal for sure. My vocalist and his wife, for instance, go to horror cons all the freaking time. I mean, it's a nerdy thing, and I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it's very embraced.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, and you don't feel like people make fun of other people
Absolutely
within the.
not.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I don't like Pokemon. I'll probably jab and poke at you about it, but I don't give a shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, people love Magic the Gathering and all that sort of stuff. I mean, me included, there's like, three guys in my band love video games, and we are always talking about them, while the other two sit there and kind of like glaze over. But I mean, yeah, so I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, there's a lot of very friendly, dorky people in the metal scene, believe it or not. So,
It's cool. It's good to know.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
that I'll ever go to a death metal show, but it's good to know if I were to do that it's less intimidating. Thinking for me now.
Sure,
To do that.
and
I might have to put in earplugs though.
a lot of people do.
Okay.
I do sometimes.
Uh-huh.
And there's always an area you can stand where you don't have to worry about getting hit or pushed or anything like that. I guarantee you. Like, and I don't know, even with the show's been lately with Corona and everything, it hasn't been a huge attendance, unfortunately. So like, there's plenty of room to stand around if you want, So
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the reality is that even if you didn't look the part, you would still be embraced because you're there, right? You know what I mean?
I don't think. I mean, you might get. 'Cause, I can't speak for everybody. There's definitely going to be some people out there who are going to be like, "What's this fucking person doing here?" type of thing. But I mean, if you guys walked in there, I wouldn't. I would probably think these guys are in for a treat. They're definitely
Yeah.
like
We have the
out of
shortest
their
hair in
element.
there. Other than the bald guys, we have the shortest
Yeah,
hair.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe you would get some looks, but I mean, no one's going to come up to you and be like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Who do you think you are?"
Right.
It's not like that.
Yeah.
But if we started like banging our head,
Yeah, they'd be like, "Yeah, this guy loves it." Yeah, for sure.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Yeah.
yeah, that just actually. So are most because again, either of us haven't been to a show. Does the fans kind of typically look like the band? Do you know what I mean? Because again,
Sure.
if you go to a Metallica concert, you're going to see like a lot of mainstream looking people
Yeah.
there, but not with death metal. Like they're going to kind of look the part.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, shit,
Okay.
man. It's very rare, but I'll be walking in Wegmans and I'll see somebody wearing like a band shirt, and I'm like, holy shit! And you usually have long hair, or they have like a haircut like yours. Maybe they have a job that requires them to be prim and proper. But I mean, they're wearing that shirt, and like I can come up to them and be like, dude, I fucking love that band. And they're like, oh yeah, and it's just.
Yeah, it's an
Yeah.
instant connection.
Yeah,
right?
so like I think a lot of them kind of do dress, as the bands
Yeah.
do, but half the audience usually is in a band too. So
Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
And what about the makeup? So didn't you say it was probably like 90% men that are kind of into this
What, the makeup?
makeup? As far as the percentage of population who are into this music, as far as gender, do you know? So isn't it?
Oh, the makeup
highly
of the genre.
Yes.
Okay.
So like, isn't it highly
Yeah.
skewed male?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay.
I don't know where that stems from. Like there is a lot. I guess there is some misogyny involved. A lot of death metal bands do talk about female victims and stuff. But I think that kind of just goes right back into like the whole horror movie aspect. We kind of were like that when we first started, but we've gradually kind of moved away from like really sexing a victim in a song or something like that. Just try to, bring some androgyny in there. But yeah, unfortunately, if you see a girl at a metal show, she's probably there with her boyfriend. Rarely are they there like just to because they love the music. And it's not to say there aren't girls that love this stuff, because there's a healthy amount, but unfortunately it is a very male oriented genre at the moment. But females have definitely started becoming a lot more prominent, which is really cool to see. There's a lot more female fronted bands, a lot more bands with females in them popping up, and they're like blowing
That's
up.
cool.
Yeah. I don't know if it's because strictly there is some females in there that they're getting so popular, but hey, more power to them. I mean, it's cool to see, girls getting into it too.
Do they talk about dismembering males?
Sure. Oh yeah, there's a band called 200 Stab Wounds maybe, or Stabbing, and it's mostly girls, and they're a death metal band, and they're all about
That's
gore
got to be
and
cool.
stuff.
And then they're probably playing to a whole audience of guys, right? For the most
For
part.
the most
right?
part, yeah. But there's definitely, it's about 90-10, maybe 80-20.
Yeah, it's probably growing a bit.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, with the advent of the internet, you've definitely seen a lot of walls getting broken down and everything.
And
so.
just like the whole, just as female empowerment, like
Absolutely.
more women playing guitars and just wanting to shred and all that stuff, right? So.
Yeah, and they're pretty good at screaming too and all that stuff. Yeah.
So what other kind of music do you listen to?
I like The Weeknd.
Really?
Yeah, I like some of his stuff. Actually, my ex got me into him. Some Post Malone stuff. I like old rap, like Snoop Dogg and stuff like that. I like lo-fi stuff a lot. I like to go to sleep listening to like a lot of lo-fi instrumental stuff. But I try to keep an open ear. If there's one thing I really don't care for, it's country. Like, especially new age country. Old country I like Hank Williams and Johnny Cash, that sort of stuff. Like, like when it was birthed, basically. But the stuff now with pickup trucks and all that stuff, I don't care.
No.
So,
Well, it's just their branding. I mean, that's just their blood and guts.
Hey, man, my brother
Uh-huh.
fucking loves country,
Oh, yeah,
And I'm just like, okay, dude. But
The Marine one?
Huh?
The Marine one?
No, my middle brother, one I
okay.
work with, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he loves country. So, yeah. I was, hey, whatever, man. Whatever floats your boat. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming on, Jason.
Thank
we
you.
really appreciate you taking the time to demystify death metal for us. And,
Hopefully I did.
Yeah, I mean, you certainly did for me, and we'll see what our
Absolutely.
viewers say. We'd love to hear feedback, and if the viewers think Jason here helped break a stereotype, drop a comment below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more in-depth interviews that break stereotypes. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jason.
Yeah, thank you.